said, empty your mind. Be formless, shapeless, like water. Now you put water into a cup, it becomes the cup. You put water into a bottle, it becomes the bottle. You put it in a teapot, it becomes the teapot. Be water, my friend.
All right. So yeah, the beard also an important feature. And yeah, I'm in my 30s, 35 right now, and single, and went through several relationships. And so looking back over the last 7 years, I have to say this is sort of the part in my life that I haven't hacked yet as a biohacker. And then I read your book, and in the beginning, I resonated very much with what you said, that people are often looking for the perfect partner, but they should just enjoy the dating experience and look for positive episodes and adventures, and then grow their confidence with that. Now, for the beginning of the podcast, can you elaborate on that?
Yeah, you hit the number one, my favorite thing, which is for single people: create a series of positive dating experiences, and that changes your brain. So your brain is now looking for the right person. You know, we have this reticular activating system in the brain. And an example of that, for those that aren't familiar with that part of the brain, is back in my day, and back when Apple computers first came out, they were sold in supermarkets. They were sold everywhere. Everybody had this little Apple computer. And I didn't have one. I was busy doing my therapy with people, and I decided to write a book. My assistant said, you shouldn't use a pencil. Just go out there and buy an Apple computer. And I said to her, where are the Apple computers? Where do you buy one? And she laughed, because within 1 mile radius of my office, there were 7 stores with big Apple computer signs. But because I wasn't looking for it, I didn't see it. It didn't even come into my consciousness. And this is a very real thing, is you have to be putting forth the question that the subconscious mind will answer, and the mind will seek out that answer. Where is it? It will come. So as it comes, you take what comes by what's a positive dating experience, and you look at what are the pros, what are the cons. So you're basically defining in your mind what your ideal relationship would look like for you. Now, it will never be everything. That's what we got to get out of our minds is, you know, there's the challenge for men. It's a little different for women, but the challenge for men is when you have quick sex with somebody and you ejaculate, what happens is your ability temporarily goes away to see the positive. It's just what, you know, there's a comedian, some funny show really exampled this, where there's a guy, one of these comedians had a one-night stand, and she was beautiful the night before, and he woke up and her big toe suddenly was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And that's a phenomena of you're looking for what you want, your mind sees what you want, but when you deplete your energy very quickly on a sexual level, then your mind will see everything you don't want out of proportion. So what happens is your mind just starts going, yes, but, yes, but, yes, but. So that's if you're looking for someone, if you have sex right away before you get to know them at a heart level or a mind level. So the test is, can you actually have a conversation with a woman and still be turned on? Can you do things for her and organize something and have her feel that she really appreciates what you did, and there wasn't a lot of conflict around that? So you bond both in the heart and in the mind. Then when you release the energy sexually, you have a heart connection and a mind connection, which is already established without it just being sort of the illusion. Because when you're turned on, everything looks beautiful. There's a word of hope for the women listening, is when you're the only naked woman in the room, you're $1 million to any man. Okay, so we go into sort of an altered state of divine perfection in a sense. And we want to ground it with a heart and a mind. And then if you're still turned on, then you don't tend to swing from, oh my God, she's wonderful, to, oh, this is horrible, because the swings will be too great. You know, you've heard my talks. I'm a big believer in sex. I think great sex is a real key thing, but too much sex if you're ejaculating, really it's too much ejaculation, will deplete your ability to stay bonded with a woman. What happens after sex, is this okay? I'm talking about this?
Of course, of course. We're in Germany, so Europeans are usually even more.
So and I'm all for free love and everything. Some Germans are, some people are. But what I know to be the biology is that when you ejaculate, if you're a man and you ejaculate, afterwards your testosterone will go back down to kind of your average level, and even a little drop, it will drop a little bit and start rising to your average level for 6 days. And then on the 7th day, it will double. So on that 7th day, it doubles. You have this confidence, which allows you to then have sex and bond with somebody. And then it will go back down, and then it will come back up. It will go back down. But that bonding builds confidence. You know, when you are, when we have a difficulty keeping a commitment going, and, you know, there's other issues, but one is just you kind of go, I'm just not turned on to her anymore. That's actually a Pavlovian conditioned response to ejaculating too much with a woman. Literally, you drain your ability to be turned on to her by conditioned response. So every time having sex with her, your testosterone goes down. So then just the thought of having sex with her, your testosterone goes down. This is what happens to couples when they have arguments in the house. Anytime a woman is critical of a man, disapproving of a man, doesn't make you feel good, that's a drop in your testosterone. So you could be in a relationship and out of town and you're thinking about your wife, your girlfriend, whatever, and you're so hot to go have sex, you walk in the door and suddenly you're tired. And now, you know, people say, oh, we're just working too hard, we're too tired. I said, no, you weren't when you were in the beginning, before you had this conditioned response to her. Because what happens is we have a response. If you experience that you're going to be built up in a relationship, your testosterone goes down, goes up. But once you have many experiences of going into that space, then what occurs is your testosterone will just go down, which is another reason why you should have there's a place to meditate in your house if you can, even a corner or a spot. But there's also a place to have sex where you never have arguments, and you don't have TV, and you don't do, porn. Okay, what happens with porn is, once again,
very interesting topic.
Yeah, you're depleting your energy by desiring somebody who's not desiring you. So that's the whole thing, is that ultimately we have to learn how to last long enough in sex so that women have many orgasms. The orgasm says, I want you as much as you want me. You literally got to get a woman out of her mind into her vagina, basically. And then you detach, and you can last a long time if you have an orgasmic woman. But what happens is men are too much in a hurry, which pushes her down to be slower. So you have to look at this as just scales. There's all these polarities of yin and yang. When we're in a hurry, they can't get there. Unless they're already there, then it's fine. You know, if you've been dating for a while, or she just had some wonderful romantic moment with you, she's already got her foreplay. You can just go right to it. So ultimately, the big solution to mastery, we're talking biohacking, is the first biohacking is don't have too much sex. The second one is have foreplay sex every day where you don't ejaculate. And once you learn how to do that, then foreplay sex turns into intercourse without needing to ejaculate. You could do it once a week if you wanted. You know, I'm 68. I never want to do it. Occasionally I do it. Taoism talks about the ultimate anti-aging solution is not ejaculating, having sex every day. These are guys from 5,000 years ago that are reported to live for hundreds of years. This is all just mythology, maybe, or maybe it's real. We don't know. I haven't lived to hundreds of years yet, but I know that I, as a biohacker, I'm looking at all the areas of this. And, one of the key areas for men is testosterone. I mean, look at, you can give a lot of parameters of aging, but, one of the major ones is energy levels drop. That's the whole thing. Even you look at dementia, they say that's just, it's blood sugar issues and so forth, but it's not being able to metabolize energy. Your brain just needs a lot of energy, and people start going slower and slower. I notice with my brain, I can still come up with all the answers at 68, but sometimes I have to sit and my computer's a little slow, it takes a minute. The answer pops in my head. I go, it will come. It just is a little slower than it used to be. It used to be like right there. So, so I'm more focused on making sure I have regular sex with not ejaculating. That brings back my brain. Maybe you didn't know, 18 years ago, I had Parkinson's. And
no, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So I learned, that's why Dave Asprey calls me grandfather of biohacking, because, he used to come to my talks back those days because, here I am, Parkinson's, they want to give you a whole array of drugs, except take away symptoms, and the condition gets worse. So that's when I started applying my focus to researching how the brain works and how we can support optimal brain function. So I got that back. But I do notice at 68 now, it's 18 years later, there is a tendency to slow it down. So, I'll be doing some stem cells for that. But the key thing I know is this learning how to, ejaculate only sparingly, but have lots of sex. And
so does that mean also for someone, let's say I meet this really cool woman and I'm going to see her next week, that I'm stopping masturbating?
Definitely don't masturbate. That's the big, that's even desiring. That's a problem with not having regular sex. When I have regular sex, I look at women like girls, like children. They're beautiful. I have one lover and, she's spectacular. Your energy, your sexual energy goes where it comes back. So that's the whole idea of divine love and regeneration, and is that when you desire, your energy is going out. Now, if somebody's desiring you back with love, and it's the love that connects you, that's why they desire back, because they love you too, that energy will come back to you. So you're recycling the energy. And, the key to that, there's a lot of tantric techniques of doing meditations where you're circulating energy, whatever. I'm personally not into that. I'm into meditation myself, for sure. But my meditation allows me to go bring my energy to my heart and my head. Then I make love. And it's the feeling love, even if you don't, not married to somebody even, you can still love them as a person. You feel this love. And this is why they put it in the context of divine love. You can be loving the God inside of them, the spirit inside of them, and bring the energy up to your third eye, where you're just feeling you're absorbing the person. So you're taking them in. They're becoming a part of you. You're embracing them. And, when you ejaculate, your ability to do that lessens tremendously. Part of my, a lot of mine is personal exploration and research, of course. But I was a celibate yogi for 9 years.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that story, because you mentioned it on stage, and I'm highly interested, because I think many people feel that urge to go away and do something extreme. So maybe you can tell me that story.
Yeah, you just did the cold water. Okay, so I used to meditate 15 hours a day. Okay, so
Wow.
That's how I could be celibate. It didn't start that way. It started with an hour, three 1 hour meditations a day, then doubled, until it was just energy was flowing through my body, which is called kriyas, where the energy just flows, your spine flows. It's literally like when you're turned on with a woman, your pelvis wants to go like that. You just naturally do that. Well, when you're turned on to the universe, your whole body is doing this. So I used to be doing this for like 10 hours, until it kind of like completed itself. So I had that advantage. I was bringing it up. Now, it would have never happened if I had ejaculated any time during those 9 years. Okay, so I know the power. How many people do you know that can sit in meditation in ecstasy for 18 hours? Well, that was only because I had that much semen, which turns into what in Hindu terms, ojas, it turns into. And, if I was perspiring, you'd smell semen. I had semen throughout my whole body. I've never talked to anybody who had that experience, but I talked to the other monks, and they're all doing this, They weren't really celibates, Celibacy is bringing that energy up into your head, okay? And there's lots of ways people talk about doing it, and breathing exercises are really good. but we're talking about hours if you want to get into the big stuff. You know, it's you can't just do this 5-minute breathing exercise or 10 minutes. And,
by the way, John, I wanted to ask you, because back in Los Angeles, you did this in order to get us, the audience, going, the stands where you jumped around and we
yeah, I always start with that. I don't always start with that, but quite often I start with that.
What is that called?
Okay, what's it called?
Can you explain it to the audience?
Okay, I just like to study all the traditions of the world. I've been practically everywhere. And you look at Aborigines people, indigenous people, they have drums, they get around the fire, or they play music, and they do this up and down movement. Okay, it's this simple up and down movement. Now, what this does just biologically is it stimulates your lymphatic system. I'm doing it right now, okay? So just this little up and down movement. It's not a muscular thing. It's a gravitational thing, is that we have the Earth's gravitational field, and we need to be like a wave going through it. And that stimulates your lymphatic system. Now, the astronauts learn that. There's something called space disease, where they have to put a pulsing into the frequencies of the spaceship. Otherwise, your body will fall apart, you become depressed, and all these problems. So it's the pulsing. And see, as human beings, for the whole evolution from animals and everything, we're always looking for food. So we have to go, when we're walking, we're going up and down inside of the Earth's electromagnetic field. So there's this pulsing that has to take place, which opens up these little pumps that pump the lymphatic system, that pump the fluid up the body. Okay, so, you know, this trampolines, you know, doing trampolines, that's a big thing as well. But I find what the indigenous people have done is better, is you just simply do this little bouncing. So if you go to Africa, it's more relaxed. It's kind of a simple bounce. And then you go to New Zealand. Actually, you go to China. You see this all the time in China when I'm there, is they do kind of a chop. Okay, they're a little bit, you know, the shoulders come down, the knees, they have more of a Qigong type feel to it. It's a chop. Then you go to South America, you'll see these indigenous people, they put on some music and whatever, probably they're taking a little peyote or something, some drugs, but they'll dance around the fire, and their hands are out to the side around the belly level. And so it really is, it's like a totem pole. It's the 7 chakras. Slowly you bring the energy up to the heart center. You got American Indians, and they'll tend to move their body like this. And this is also a Taoist technique, but you're bringing the energy up to the heart. Then you got this here, which is another bringing up to the throat. This is sort of European Christian, you know, praise the Lord, hallelujah, that kind of a thing. And then you got India, they do sometimes this movement here, third eye. And then you got rock concert, which is crown chakra. And I mean, this is the highest frequency up here. It doesn't mean you're a high person. It means you have the highest frequency, but that can give you a lot of good meditation experiences, but you got to bring it down. Okay. So all the energy centers need to be handled. You know, for me, my 9 years of celibacy with Maharishi Mahesh Yogi was my guru at that time, of the transcendental meditation movement, which was popular in Germany at that time. I don't know what it is now, but a good meditation technique, a good beginner's technique. That doesn't mean it's less than. It's a good technique. Ultimately, let me just put a parenthesis. Almost all techniques are good because it's the energy and effort and focus and intention behind it that makes it work. You got to put your energy out. You know, there's an old thing the religions use. They say, give us your money and then you'll get blessings. Well, there's a certain truth to that, is when you give up something, sacrifice, you put forth effort, you're valuing something. So when you value something, then you're opening yourself up to receive. You gotta put determination into it, intention into it. It's got to be good. It's got to give your energy out where it comes back with love. Give it with love, and it will come back to you in some way. It always does. I'm not telling people to give 10% of their income to me. That's not my call. Okay, but I'm making the point is that when you sacrifice, when you give up something of value to someone, then more comes in. And you know, that's how you bond with a woman, is doing more for her than she does for you. That's, you know, you're talking about dating. If she does more for you, it feels good, but you don't bond with her. Yeah. So and the problem with women, when women are insecure, they want to do it all. they want to do for you. You know, you're a handsome, successful guy. They're going to feel a little intimidated inside, truthfully. And so they're going to be a people pleaser, and they're going to try to get you to love them. So when they try to get you to love them, what happens is you can't bond with them. It's got to be you trying to get them to love you. I know all this sounds so sexist and everything, but you have to realize I'm the Mars-Venus guy. I understand, and very few people really do on this planet still, that men and women are really, really different. And I know we're going to get into the hormones, which just cuts through all the bullshit where people are saying we're all the same, because we're not the same. And I'm totally into equality. I'm into female leadership. I'm into equality, making decisions together, all that stuff I'm totally into. But equality doesn't mean sameness. I mean, what, you think you could be a rock star? You think I could play piano? You know, these are like, everybody's unique and different. And when you come to men, there's unique hormonal balances that are required to bond, to feel good, to have motivation, to be free of anxiety, to be free of depression, you know, to have their juice coming to flow. Okay, so flow, which I love doing, we're talking with you about flow.
You're on the Flowgrade Show, after all.
Flow is everything, and flow only occurs when your male and female hormones are in balance, according to your biology. Now, you know, there's no one can tell you what your flow biology is. It's the experience of flow, freedom from, you know, all timelessness, which is my problem, as you know. hours.
I'd say we have to extend maybe the interview. I would love to, actually, if you have time.
It's too long for other people. But the unlimited energy, well-being, all of these things abound when you're in flow. And for men, what that means is that our male hormone, testosterone, and our female hormone, estrogen, particularly those two, have to be in the right balance. And you'll see these men who have heart attacks, their estrogen levels are too high, their testosterone's too low. That's always the case. When you look at cholesterol levels, that's not always the case. Half the people with heart attacks have high cholesterol, half have low cholesterol. Has very little significance. It does have some significance if you have a lot of plaque in your veins and so forth. But even plaque, people who have heart attacks, some have plaque, some don't have plaque. It's a whole hormonal brew of being stressed out and your body not working well, because when you're stressed out, your hormones are out of balance. Cortisol is a hormone, and when cortisol is too high, for men, their testosterone converts into estrogen and they become more emotional. That's their feminine energy. And, you know, when you find yourself being a little grumpy and irritable and pouting and not liking or hating any of that stuff, or yelling, any of that stuff, these are monkey brain conditioned responses that occur when men lose the ability to come from here. This is your prefrontal cortex. And this is also your third eyes, where you have connection to wisdom, you know. And so as soon as we're out of hormone balance, we can't connect to wisdom. We can't learn anything new. We can't open our hearts. We tend to just go into a defensive mode, which is a copy of our parents and their parents and their parents and their parents, and back to the great monkey. You know, this just went on one generation after another. We are animals, but we have one part of us right up here where the DNA is actually human, and we can connect with control, and not that we suppress, but we embrace. Well, we don't, you know, this is like a 3-year-old kid sometimes. You don't punish a 3-year-old kid. You don't judge a 3-year-old kid. They don't know what they're doing. They're animals. So you embrace them, you understand them, you educate them. I understand what you're feeling. I understand you're going through this. And then you hear them for a little while. Then they subject themselves back to the authority, you the parent, or you the higher self, whichever you want to look at it. These are all, you know, therapeutic techniques. There's so many great therapeutic techniques out there. I have my own. There's great meditation techniques. I have my own. But if it's the energy and the effort you put into it that makes the biggest difference. And when it comes to sex, I'll come back to sex because
always come back to sex. It's a good topic.
I mean, what keeps us alive on this planet? You know, it's one of the driving urges. And we're talking about biohacking. We want healthy bodies, we want healthy brains. Well, what is the part of us that built this body? Wasn't our emotions. It wasn't our social skills. It's the primitive part of the brain. It's the, you know, the very back part of the brain, which is where if you have fight or flight back there, but you also have sex back there, and you also have regeneration. if you get a wound, how does your body do it? You don't do it. The body just heals itself. That part of your body needs to be active, not repressed, not suppressed. It also needs to be directed from here, because if you just let it go free rein, actually your body might have great regeneration abilities, but you'll do all kinds of crazy stuff because you don't have this brain or this brain here. Too much drama and whatever, that will cause stress. But this part of the brain, when it's not in the cortisol state, when it's not jacked up and stress, or the hormones are out of balance, then what happens is it has the power to regenerate the body and stay healthy and vital and energetic. That's all the biology.
Is that tied to orgasms as well? And I wanted to go back.
That part of us, not let it control us.
I wanted to go back to one part you said before, and actually on stage, which I thought was very interesting, that I think it was along the lines, the quality of the relationship can be measured by the quality of the female orgasm.
Well, I don't know if I said that, but actually, I would
I'm not sure.
That's a good interpretation of what I said.
I think I interpreted it that way, yeah.
Why not? Sometimes I get my best ideas from people who tell me what I said. The problem with that conclusion, although I agree with it, and I can explain why, is it puts a lot of pressure on women that they're responsible. But let me put the whole idea of sex on a kind of an equal basis here of responsibility. We go to work. If you have a job, you go to work, you get paid, right? You do a good job, you get paid more. You don't do a good job, you don't get paid more. Well, the man's the guy who goes to work, and the woman's their payment. Okay, the orgasm's the payment. If you don't do a good job, you don't get the orgasm. But if you don't get the orgasm, you stop doing a good job. You see, if you go to a job, they're not paying you, you're not going to go anymore. If you have low self-esteem, you might go for a while to try to earn your way there, but they're just not giving you enough, so you're just going to be depressed and die. So it's really, this is a symbiotic thing. You can't blame either side. You have to take responsibility for your own side. And when you're not getting a result as a man, I have to be the guy who goes to work, right? I'm going to work, and I get the reward from her. If she doesn't give me the reward, I don't go to work anymore. But if I don't go to work, she can't give the reward. She's not going to give the reward. And if she gives the reward and you're not doing anything, it actually makes you lazier. That's another phenomenon here. These are just forces of the universe. You got to take responsibility for the results you get. And at the outcome, the quality of your relationship, you can measure it by how long he lasts in sex.
Okay. But how is it, do you recommend that?
Timing, it's quality. Okay, it's quality, but there's very little quality when it takes 2 to 3 minutes of intercourse and a guy ejaculates. Women need more time, they need more time. And if you can't, I'm telling you how to do it. I'll tell everybody how to do it. You got to stop ejaculating so much. Your ability to last longer is determined by how much semen you've built up in your body. If you can meditate 10 hours, you can have sex for 10 hours. That's the amazing thing. It's just because you got the juice to do it. But it takes building up that juice. And that's something that you can't take a pill for or whatever. That's your power inside. That's your greatest power inside, is this guy back here. Now, we do all these things for this guy up here to make good decisions in our life, to be creative, to balance ourselves and all. This needs to be the controlling place. This is love and all that good stuff. But biology, that's back here. You want to have the juice. You want to have the energy. You want to have the fuel. You want to have the stamina. You want to have the energy to love. And when your heart is open, you have patience. Just think about how impatient we are today. We got to have everything right away, right away, right away. Love is patient. I just want to emphasize that in relationships. We just got to get love is patient. That means you're not going to get everything you want right away. And life is not perfect. Nothing is perfect. And so you measure someone else's imperfection. If you're aware of your own imperfections, then it's you can accept somebody else have imperfections. That's what I always do. Well, she's got this problem. I got this problem. So,
that's a good way to do it. I think that's very healthy nowadays. Because like you said in your book you wrote as well, that our role models nowadays are mostly coming from non-realistic TV shows and
completely
movies.
non-realistic. And, you know, the people that have the most trouble in relationships are often the people who are most beautiful or rich. I'll just throw that in here, because when you're so beautiful, you feel so entitled. Okay, if you're rich, you feel so entitled. Like, why am I not getting this? Why am I not getting this? Maybe lower your false self-esteem a little bit. You know, it's like we're all people. We're all equal. You know, they get that this is the equal stuff. But some of us have beautiful. Some of us are richer. Some of us are more talented in certain ways. Yes, that's a part of who we are. But the heart sees the good in everybody and values everyone, and also rejects the not good of some. There's evil people out there. And, you know, you just can't just make every relationship the ideal relationship. And there's some people that don't fit together. And energetically, they just don't fit together. And so if we have low self-esteem, we tend to be attracted to, here's the interesting phenomenon of single life, we tend to be attracted to the very people who can't love us because we feel unworthy of love. You know, this feeling of unworthiness, it sort of throws off our intuition of who's the right person for us. So
how do you deal with that? Let's say you are attracted to someone that you know is not healthy to you, but you like, how can you redirect your thinking?
The sex is the best with the people that aren't healthy. I mean, it's true. See, this unworthiness is deep down in the unconscious, right? We don't walk around, most people don't walk around going, I'm unworthy. You know, we have this sense of false self-esteem that comes to pump us up. So this unworthiness is down in the unconscious. So when you're dealing with, when that's coming up, you tend to be down into the very primitive part of your brain where you have no restraints on sexuality. So sex can be spectacular. At the same time, you have to realize that we want to measure our sexual experience not just by the intensity. Like you mentioned before, for people like intense experiences, well, find somebody you don't know, or masturbate to somebody you don't know on the computer. Your intensity will be much greater than a real person. Okay, the intensity will be greater. The amount of time you can do it won't be, but the intensity will be greater. Why is that? Because when you make love, okay, love is estrogen. Okay, there'll be estrogen flowing through your body. There's oxytocin flowing through your body. And so those two hormones, oxytocin and estrogen, lower testosterone. Okay, so Superman feeling, you know, pump, 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 I'm the king of the world. I love you. I'll serve you forever. I'll kneel before you. I worship you. All those amazing, powerful experiences you can have in sex. A man's testosterone levels have at least doubled at that point. I mean, we're in an altered state, which you want to maintain as much as possible. So you're in that high state of high testosterone. If you go online and have sex and get all stimulated, everything, and ejaculate, then what happens is you're having sex with, first of all, a fantasy. A fantasy produces more testosterone than a real woman because you can fantasize getting everything you want. You can fantasize perfection. And so you're not in reality as one. So your dopamine pleasure goes higher. When dopamine goes really high, then your testosterone goes really high and you have a great sexual intense experience. Intensity is dopamine. So when dopamine goes really high, then what occurs in the brain when you have an intense high dopamine experience, that means lots of pleasure. Then what happens is the brain compensates and desensitizes itself to normal dopamine stimulation. Okay, so high stimulation creates low compensation in the brain. Let me say it another way. If you have high stimulation, then your brain says, "Oh, that's too high. So we're gonna close down our receptor sites to dopamine." So, for example, if you were to look into the bright light, okay, your
pupils go
closed down. Okay, then you go into darkness, it opens back up again. So if you're going to have intense experiences, and I'm not against intense experiences, I'm for everything in life. So an intense experience has to be balanced by a low intense experience. Then your receptor sites can come back up. But once you have a high intense experience, there's a low that will follow it because the receptor sites close down, so that when they're closing, your sensitivity to normal dopamine stimulation is very low. So an example of that, simple, is if you eat a lot of sugar, then cauliflower and broccoli doesn't taste very good. That's a low stimulator. That's actually a normal stimulator as a vegetable. Sugar is a manufactured high stimulation. That's sweets, you know, pineapple is fantastic, but it's going to desensitize you so that normal stimulation doesn't give you the pleasure. So if you get this, if you're addicted to, and that's what addiction is, once those receptor sites close down, nothing is pleasurable. This girlfriend becomes boring. This healthy diet is boring. I need something high to stimulate me pleasure. Then every time these go down, instead of giving it the time, the patience required for the receptor sites to open back up again so that normal stimulation can give us just as much pleasure as intensity. See, intensity is just a lot of pleasure, okay? But you can have that pleasure just with normal experience, more balanced because other hormones are being produced. What are those other hormones? When you make love with a woman, if you're a man, what's happening is oxytocin is being produced, and oxytocin lowers testosterone. Okay, this is like, again, we learned back in 2000, I was teaching in 1990, that oxytocin lowers stress in women, not men. Okay, they're still out there preaching oxytocin lowers stress for everybody. No, it doesn't. What it does, oxytocin increases estrogen and lowers testosterone. So if your testosterone is too high, then oxytocin will make you feel more loving. But if your testosterone's kind of in the middle or low, your oxytocin is going to lower you down. Okay, and then you become, with low testosterone in men is always linked to depression, irritability, anger, frustration. And let me emphasize that because this is a really key biohack, okay?
Yes.
For every man to know is we know now, this is just simple common knowledge, okay? People come to therapy and they talk about their feelings. Talking about feelings makes women particularly feel better. Why? Because women usually have low estrogen. And if they raise their estrogen levels, they feel better. So as a therapist, I have women come to me in my office, and I don't do that therapy anymore, but I did for 10 years. They would come in basically unhappy. I know how to ask a series of questions that will cause a woman to cry. She feels safe. I'm very empathetic. I can feel her pain, and she will cry. And then she will feel better. So she comes in very unhappy and leaves happy. What just happened? I didn't give her any advice. Okay, that's the key thing here. I didn't give advice. I was just doing therapy where I'm processing emotions. I do give advice sometimes. I've written books for advice. But if somebody wants to pay me for coming close, I'll just do therapy because they can't get this anywhere else. And there's also good therapists out there. But if a woman can talk about her feelings and reveal more what she doesn't share to anybody else, and reveal even what she hasn't shared with herself, that's real intimacy. That's why therapy can have huge effects, particularly to balance hormones. So 90% of the people who want to do talk therapy are women. Why? Because if I get a woman to feel and to go deeper and then feel something she hasn't even felt before, that's deep intimacy. I just went into her. See, listening is masculine. Sharing is feeling. It's feminine. Okay, I just want to flip that side. Men, we make this big mistake of talking way too much. And women ask all these questions to get you to talk. But it's the opposite of intimacy. Intimacy is you going into her. Okay, let's look at this. She can connect with you by going into you, or she can connect with you by letting you into her. You've got to go into her. So this is like real clear biology. When women are doing this, they're being masculine and they're making you feminine. And making you feminine, generally speaking today, lowers a man's energy level and certainly prevents him from bonding. It's when his testosterone is high that he wants to marry a woman, he falls in love with her, he has the stamina to deal with the issues that come up in a relationship. And unrealistic expectations, of course, they are a big part of problems in relationships, but I'm just dealing with the plumbing right now. That electricity that you feel with somebody, that connection that you feel, you want to keep that going. Women ask you questions, men go, okay, I'll share. And it feels good to share and open up, have somebody go into you, but that's becoming feminine. Now there's a place for that. Okay, I'm not saying there's not a place for that. Even in the bedroom, there's a place for that. There's a place where I'm the aggressor and she's submissive, and then there's a place for her to be the aggressive and I'm submissive. I love it. I love it. It's just freely give. Take my body. Enjoy me. One of the favorite things is you got this a big erection, and she's just loving it, worshiping it basically, and just enjoy me. I'm giving freely. I care about nothing. These are dynamics that are missing today. We have all this shame around sex, around penises. You know, people used to worship penises. They still do. When I was in Nepal, I secretly got into one of these temples. They don't let white people in, and Westerners. And, you know, they had like a 5,000 of these little Shiva lingams. That's a penis, you know, and they worship it. You know, this is the male energy. There's one province I was in, China, where, you know, the women all do these ceremonies around the big, you know, the giant penis. You know, it looks just like a penis, okay? And they worship it because this is fertility. You know, they want to make babies. They worship the penis. You know, we have all these different kind of sexual ideas about this. And you know, a great books that talk about all these different cultures. But we are a different species now. We have to realize we are not an ancient culture. We can benefit from their wisdom, but we're biohackers. We're in a different world. We want a higher level of consciousness, a higher level of vitality, longevity, and so forth, a better community, a better world. Wow, we're at a higher level. So we have to realize the rules change a little bit. So, you know, I have my friends, they're polyamorous, you know, and I know that goes a lot in Germany. It's also Marin County where I live. And I go, great, that, you know, that's your wish. That's freedom. Okay. I think freedom is really important. But then what happens is how to biohack your freedom. Now I have a sexual partner, and my wife has passed. So now I'm in a relationship. I have a sexual partner. And because the sex is so good, why do I care about having sex with somebody else? And it was the same experience I had with my wife for 34 years. Why would I be interested in having sex with somebody else when I got the best sex at home? And I remember, you know, some movie star saying this, why would I want other women why would I go to McDonald's when I got steak at home? And I didn't fully get it then until I had steak at home. And if you're vegetarians, excuse me, but that was his quote. So when you've got the best, what do I need that for? I mean, it's so powerful when a woman is multi-orgasmic and when a man can sustain himself in sex, you satisfy this part of the brain. It doesn't need other women. But as soon as you start having sex with women you don't love, that she's not multi-orgasmic, you can't last long enough to provide that, or you can't be the loving person she needs, or you're not the right partner for each other. There's just something called sexual compatibility as well, which needs to be explored. You know, do you energetically turn a woman on? You know, are there qualities that just exist in you that turn her body on? And it could go all the way down to a level of the pheromones, just simply the DNA of your pheromones. Do they excite the DNA of her pheromones? I mean, with my wife, we were married 34 years. And
by the way, John, my condolences. Helena shared that with me before. And what I've heard, she was a wonderful woman, your wife, Bonnie. And just wanted to say, I feel sorry.
Oh, well, thank you for sharing that. I'm sort of in my biohack mode. So every day I cry and I miss her without a doubt. My girlfriend understands that. She lost her father. So she really understands that the grieving process takes time. But it doesn't mean I can't love somebody else. This is so important. I know I met a guy the other day, and he just, I said, well, are you in a relationship now? He says, oh, I can't even think about being in another relationship. I said, no, it's the love that heals the heart. You know, you've got to find someone to love and be loved. That's what heals us. And you know, but there's a mental thing that goes on with grief and loss. Maybe somebody needs this information, but it's, you feel guilty. You know, I had to go, unfortunately, I have all my therapy understanding of this, but the reason you don't allow yourself to feel more happiness. See, love is happiness. You know, when you feel, I love ice cream, you're happy. You know, I love my life, you're happy. And every time I would grieve, I go through a wave of grieving. And then that brings me back to feeling gratitude and love for my wife. You see, all the pain is just, you know, I'll never be able to love again, basically. I won't be able to be with her. Freud talked about this in terms about once you get love from someone, your brain attaches to them. Instead of I need your love, instead of I need love, I need your love, and you're the source of love for me. So when somebody goes, then the brain goes into freak out, I can't get love. So it has to start getting love to gradually let go of that attachment and realize that there are other sources of love in my life. So once you start getting that, you start feeling really happy, feeling more love. The brain goes, this little mistake our brain makes, which is, when she died, I felt so much pain and I was so unhappy and I felt such loss and I felt such sadness and despair. I didn't want to live, you know. Still, I go through periods where, why am I here? I don't want to live. I want to be with her. But, you know, that's just my emotional processing. So my emotional processing, I'm going through it. Then you go through it, you feel all this love for that person. You feel your heart opens, and then you receive love from others. So when you're starting to feel good, you feel guilty because the brain goes, but wait a second, you're feeling good. You felt bad before because you loved her so much. So if you're feeling good, it means you don't love her so much. Mm-hmm. That's absurd. You see, the brain has a difficult time with that one. So we have to sort of consciously look at that tendency of feeling guilty for being happy. And you know, you can imagine some guy, if he's only having a good time, he doesn't love his wife. Ironically, what I had to do is when I would go hang out with my friends, first I'd have to grieve for a little while, then I'd have fun with them. Because I couldn't just have fun with them, because they would think, what, you don't even miss your wife? Of course I miss my wife, but I don't want to have to grieve every time I go to dinner with somebody or whatever. I want to have my, you know, be in present time. But grieving is being in the past, without a doubt. But learning to accept and love and appreciate, and there's a whole journey that I went through of, you know, sleepless nights, remembering every mistake I made in the relationship, every argument, every stupid thing I did when I made my point of view more important than hers. I went back over and saw how I could do it differently. I saw how I could do it differently and committed myself to being a better person. Every mistake is there to teach us a lesson to move on and learn more. That's life, you know. But when we don't learn our lessons, then we just keep repeating them over and over and over. Those are the patterns, because we haven't yet made peace with it, and say, thank you for teaching me that lesson. You know, that's a life of grace. When you realize everything comes to you, ultimately is there. There's a lesson in it. And if you don't learn that lesson, it tends to repeat, to put it simply, without getting too medical.
It's sort of the ceiling problem. I see it like, if you don't push through the ceiling at some point, you'll always restart and get to the ceiling again, and then you restart all over again.
There's some glitch that you got to look at inside, and if it doesn't feel good, then you're still in the glitch. You know, when life is feeling good, generally speaking, you're in the flow. And I just know that we have so much psychological stuff, good therapies, good techniques, good biohacking, but at this very most primitive level, what we have is hormones. And what regulates hormones to a great extent is your sexual experience. Also, the feeling of love does as well, generating love. And this has all been in response to your saying that something I said, the quality of your relationship, you can measure how many orgasms she has. But I'm not putting all the pressure on the woman there. It's he who's providing that for her. You know, and there's this whole women's liberation, which is, you know, she's responsible for orgasms. She's going to give herself orgasms. That'll make you ejaculate right away. If a woman is trying to give herself an orgasm, how can the man get in there to do it? See, what increases testosterone, he's got tons of testosterone his body's making, keep that guy up. And that comes from feeling, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this. Then she's, in her heart and mind body, he's doing it, he's doing it, he's doing it. Then what happens is her estrogen goes so high, big orgasms. Then what happened, and that's what orgasm is, by the way, is estrogen goes to peak levels. When it goes so high, in a sense, it goes too high. Then what happens is she releases this tension, but for her can go on and on and on if the man has the energy. The man's got to keep the energy going and the desire, and she's responding. Then when the estrogen goes really high, then her body seeks balance, and the balance is found by increasing testosterone. So you'll see in the movies a lot where, the guy gets close to a kiss and she kisses. Okay, then she becomes the aggressor, and he makes some moves. He does some nice things for her. They get into the room, and then she starts taking off his clothes, and she throws him down on the bed, and and he takes over, and then she takes over, and she's on top. And what you're doing there is you're rotating roles or energies of the male and the female. The male energy, the more assertive energy, and then the female's more receptive energy, unconditional giving energy. It can be a beautiful play of balancing hormones, but it's not it's kind of like, you know, you learn to play piano and then after a while you do it mindlessly. Okay. It just flows effortlessly, but you need some training before you get there. And men need training, you know, a simple training. I mean, there's more advanced trainings. There's all kinds of people that write the multi-orgasmic man. There's the Tao of Sex. There's Dr. Cheng. He does a book, Sexology. These are Taoist books. There's great things online. All these things sort of help. You have to find your way with it. I found my way with it. I have classes just for men only where I teach some things. But the bottom line, this takes time. And the main thing with it is foreplay, okay, which is give up the idea that I'm trying to have an orgasm. Okay, just give up anything. You know, we have got this attachment to I want the biggest and best orgasm. This is for men. Give up and for women, I got to give up the idea I'm going to give myself an orgasm. I'm going to practice surrendering to the pleasure a man gives me. Okay.
By the way, John, this is perfect because I have a question by a reader, and you apparently stated, because that's tied to that point. At one point you said women need to feel love to want sex and men need sex to feel love. Is that still valid today?
Would you say that again?
So I think that's from your first book, actually, 30 years ago.
Yeah, that's something I said, I think. Okay.
So it's women need to feel love to want sex and men need sex to feel love.
Oh, I love it. One of my ideas, it's the opposite of what people say, which is the common thing, which is that men give sex, men give love in order to get sex. That's on a very superficial animal level. Okay, let me do this to get sex. But actually, and we still have a body which is an animal. Okay, so there's nothing wrong with that. But the deeper truth is that for a man to fully open his heart, he needs to have a fully positive sexual experience. Every man knows that. As soon as a woman holds your erect penis, you just go, wow, I feel good. Okay, feeling is the beginning of opening your heart. The problem is you feel good, you open your heart, and this person, you don't even know them. So that's where you lose your energy. You need to open your heart and this love comes in. So, and women, biologically, this is true. It's very hard for women to really enjoy sex, be sexually aroused, unless first they get out of their mind, they get into their heart, then the energy goes down their body. Okay, so that's a key thing. For men, the energy starts down and it goes up to the heart and he opens his heart through sex. So if, you know, these couples, they're like business partners or they're brother and sister or they're good friends and they're not having sex. So there's no juice in the relationship. And previous generations, that was okay. And the biohacking generation is not okay. We want great sex. We want intense, wonderful things. We want magnificent things. You want to feel like you conquered the world, you know. You can feel that way. And I mentioned that when you have sex with somebody you know, that testosterone prevents it from going too high, but just enough to give you the orgasmic ideal experience, because estrogen keeps the testosterone going too high. Oxytocin keeps it from going too high. So you don't get this big dopamine rush that desensitizes you to normal experiences and frees you from addiction to more and more intense things. You know, we know by internet studies of the pornography that people go from they go from more mild sex to more intense sex to more intense, more bizarre things, because anything you wouldn't want to tell your mother about that you're doing, that's dangerous, right? That's a dangerous thing. It's a taboo. You know, I've talked about taboo and sexuality and danger, secrets. All that stuff produces false high levels of dopamine. It's danger stimulates dopamine. You know, we talk about dopamine gives you the pleasure, raises your testosterone temporarily, but then once you release, it's all over. It goes away. Done. Mm-hmm. You know, it's a short circuit, and now you don't have that same feeling. You have to recover from it and so forth. But you can have, you know, really enjoyable sexual play without having to go all the way to orgasm. And you do that quite regularly. And then once a week in the beginning, you have an ejaculation orgasm. Then you do a little more advanced study. You realize that ejaculation and orgasm are two different things. Ejaculation is a tension.
I was just about to ask that.
And then there's an orgasm, which is a wave of ecstatic pleasure. And what happens if you build each time for a man, each one of those orgasms it gets more and more intense until when you can do it, when you're good at this and you haven't lost your semen in several months, then your wave goes so high, it's much bigger than any orgasm you've ever felt. But you got to pay for that by making sure you got control and you don't ejaculate for months and months, but you're having regular sex and you're not getting blue balls. So that's
does that mean for women though, that for them it doesn't really matter? They can orgasm as much as they want?
Well, there's two kinds of orgasm for women. One is going to deplete her of energy and one's going to give her energy.
As well. Okay.
So if she's giving herself energy, so the antidote for the big problem for women today is the vibrator. Okay. They're just doing themselves. Okay. There's no surrender in that. There's some surrender in that. They're feeling pleasure. They're having an orgasm, or some are having many, many orgasms. But the problem there is they're not getting the man's real energy. Okay. She's heterosexual. Even gay couples, what I hear, and I'm not an authority on gay at all. I'm very open to whatever people, when it comes to gay couples, I'm in the Bay Area, and what I hear from women is that they will often watch male porn to get some yang energy, to get the masculine energy to bring back the passion. Because you need the opposite forces to create the spark. Okay, you got to rub the sticks together. They got to be two differences create attraction, and that's why. If you look at these bland relationships the couples have today, so they're depending upon extreme things. You know, what's an extreme? Having somebody beat you up to get turned on. Okay, having to strangle yourself to have an ejaculation. You know, these are intensities because you can't feel that intense with just normal stimulation. You know, I get off on just the kiss. I mean, people forget about the kiss. The kiss is magnificent. Go back to when you were a teenager and you never kissed a girl before. A French kiss, a woman penetrating you with her tongue. That's before I even go close to vagina. I want those lips to be fluid. You know, there's got to be water flowing in there and everything before water's flowing down south. And so what women do is they've got the vibrator, and so they're doing it to themselves. And so they need to be doing it to themselves. So she's doing herself. He's doing himself, trying to do her. His energy can't go into her to come back to him through her if she's doing herself. So women have to practice receptivity and opening to receive. It's receptivity. They do not lose energy, but they don't gain energy unless they're receiving more and more and more.
Well, they lose time. I remember that one story you told on stage, of that woman. It
was a great interview. I always say the craziest things on stage. Okay,
you want to share that story again?
Okay, this is because you don't know who the woman is. All right, so this is a woman, and she's hugely, hugely overweight. And you know, I help people with dietary restrictions in order to lose weight, be their optimal shape, and so forth. Intermittent fasting is my favorite. But so I'm giving her nutrition and brain hacking and all this good stuff for her. It's just not working, you know, like what is going wrong here? And so she said, I'm just always, I looked at her psychologically as well. She said, I'm just so busy. I'm overwhelmed. I never have time for anything. So I said, well, let's go through what you do in the day. And it turned out that 3 times a day she masturbates. I said, how long does it take each time? I said, well, it's getting longer and longer. Well, how long does it take each time? She says, an hour, sometimes more. So I'm going 3 hours of masturbation a day. So what? You don't have any time. But the reason I link that to weight loss is masturbation for women is overstimulating the clitoris. So she's stimulating her clitoris with her vibrator and she's fantasizing and all that. What that does, according to Chinese Taoist philosophy on sex, okay, so I don't have any Western scientific knowledge on this, but I have anecdotal experience that backs it up over the kazoo. But there's no big research studies on this, and because it's not the case for everybody, but she's masturbating so much, according to Taoism, stimulating the clitoris and all the different levels of the vagina go to different organs of the body. You know, they're all into acupuncture and the channels of the body and so forth. And stimulating the clitoris stimulates the kidneys. Now the kidneys regulate water in the body. So if you overstimulate the kidneys, then they're unable to do their job. Just like anything, overstimulating, you can't do your job. So the kidneys now can't get rid of water in the body. So all of this huge weight she had in the thighs and the butt and the belly, all of that was holding on to water. Okay, so, and she was dieting, all this good stuff, but your body just was not processing the water. So what they say is that weight gain is sometimes linked to overstimulation of the clitoris for women, and the body goes out of balance. So there's all this stuff in you know, ancient Chinese medicine about balancing the yin and the yang energies in the body. And if you're having sex with yourself all the time, you're going to go out of balance. And so there's a place. Now, let's say you got two lesbians and they're just doing clitoris. You know, they need to do more fingers in the vagina, but usually they do get some stimulation in there. But they've got to find somewhere else in their life where they're getting yang energy. Okay, the energies that have to come in, and of course you can do role playing and so forth, which they do. So again, that's not my expertise. My expertise is heterosexual relationships, and even in Taoism, they were not against the gay relationships. You know, it's an ancient sex thing, but it's everybody. You find your own balance. You find a partner who helps to find balance for you. But for particularly love and good communication skills, but also for men to get into the woman so she can open up to you, she needs to feel safe. So this is a takeaway for men. I never finished it, but it was when women talk about their feelings, their estrogen goes up. Okay. Men talk about their feelings, his estrogen goes up. Now, we are in a crisis today of too much estrogen as men. We're in a society of low testosterone. We can measure our kids today. They're half what they used to be. Testosterone levels are dramatically low because plastics. Okay, plastics are in our bodies and they cause hormone disruption. And males, even in the mother, when she's giving birth to the baby, you know, long before he comes into the world, the mother's exposed to all these plastics and it messes with her hormones. It makes girls have more masculine qualities and boys have more feminine qualities in some cases. There's an hormone disruption. So that's who you come out with. Okay, that's who you are. So as a man, if you've got a lot of tendencies to be feminine, you have to balance that with doing things that balance your masculine hormones, bring them back up. Okay, so you got the right balance. And how do you know you're out of balance? Is if you're a man, if you're angry. Okay, are you afraid, argumentative? Fear is defensiveness and argumentative, pouting, not liking, not loving. So this is actually, women need more estrogen generally, men need more testosterone generally. We can measure this in the body. When a man is angry, aggressive, cruel, heartless, ironically, his estrogen levels are super high, his testosterone's low. And this is what we got to get. So what I know as a therapist is if you have emotions and you talk about them, what happens is estrogen goes higher and higher and higher. So men, when you're angry, don't talk. Do not argue with women. Doesn't mean you have to submit yourself to their will all the time, but it means do not argue. It's stupid. Not only is it stupid because she's not going to feel good if you argue with her, A, but B, it throws your hormones out of balance. And then you shut down, takes a few days, you come back to open your heart again. With too much of that, your heart just never opens again to her unless you process it and learn your mistakes, take accountability. Accountability is a major testosterone producer. You see, any successful person has a lot of testosterone. They may have also estrogen too, but it's the drive, okay? It gives you confidence, and it's a link to confidence. So that's what helps people to have persistence and go for your goals and so forth. And if you look at, like, I like to look at the Chinese movies, the Kung Fu movies, the guys who are always the heroes never get angry. And they never hit women. They don't drink too much alcohol. You know, they're like cool guys, all cool, calm, collected. That's masculinity, okay? Getting pouting and getting angry and whatever, you're out of balance, too much femininity. So what do? Most guys will talk at that time. That just makes it worse, or talk to her at that time. What you have to do is stop talking. Now, Buddha knew this. That's what meditation is. Meditation is forget your problems. Stop talking. Be quiet. Don't say anything. Just get it. That's the best biohack ever, is when you're emotionally upset, stop talking. That's the first thing. Then next thing, do something that increases your testosterone. Because if you're in an unhappy place as your man, bottom line, you're in a cortisol state, your basic estrogen's going up, your testosterone's converting into estrogen. So you're all grumpy and irritable. You feel powerless. See, what puts us in that state of cortisol is when you're challenged, adrenaline gets produced. That's cool. No problem with adrenaline, as long as you use it up fast.
Mm-hmm.
Physical activity uses up adrenaline, solving problems that uses up adrenaline. But if you keep adrenaline in your body too long, it will turn to cortisol. And once it's in cortisol, that's where you really start going out of balance. And so what men have to do is, at any of those stages, stop talking, come back to building up your testosterone, because your testosterone's too low at that point. So you now stop talking and do something that's productive that gets paid, you get paid for, basically. Meaning, not necessarily money, but somebody appreciates you, you've served them in some way, or you're building your skills so that you can serve someone. For me, that was easy. That's how I developed this stuff, because whenever I start to have some kind of defensive argument with my wife, I'd say, time out. I need to think about this. And then I would go away and not think about it, okay? That's the most important thing. Don't think. Get out of it. Now, for me, I could meditate. Other people might have to play a video game, or they can watch TV, something, just with the intention, I'm not going to think about what just happened. Because if I think about what just happened, my estrogen goes up. So I'm going to stop thinking about it, and I'm going to let my testosterone stop by doing something I'm good at, or getting rewards. As my wife would send me to the grocery store to get something if I was in a bad mood, because she knew somebody would recognize me and say, oh my God, you wrote the book. I said, yeah, I wrote the book. My testosterone's back up. So, but meditation was the real key for me. And you could do physical exercise, you could do yoga, you could do qigong, you could go to the gym, but you have to have also, along with it, you're using your muscles or using your brain to solve problems, overcome challenges, that your confidence. See, confidence is testosterone. When you lose confidence, testosterone goes down. That's why in the beginning of an argument, you think you're going to win. So testosterone's going really high. Look at me, I'm going to win this argument. It never wins. So then you shut down afterwards and your heart closes down. That means basically you have completely detached from your partner, because any connection to your partner raises estrogen. So there's just no love at all. You go over here to detachment, which is what the Buddha taught. You have to detach when you're upset. Forget it. Don't worry about it. Let it go. That's the male way to do it, not the female way. It's the male way, because it will rebuild testosterone. Then what you do is, once you're feeling good, doing whatever you're doing, having forgotten what happened, then take time to do the ultimate testosterone builder, which is be accountable. How did I contribute to that problem? What did I do that could be changed so that that problem would not be the same? Okay, that's become the problem solver. That's why my book, Men from Mars, is so practical. And it's not so much doing things differently, it's understanding things differently. See, there's a Harvard study that was done that somebody steps on your foot, you get a little upset. They say, no big deal. But if somebody steps on your foot and their intent is to step on your foot, you get way upset. So we're always in this monkey brain, which is when we don't get what we want, we think somebody's intent is to change us and we're not good enough and they don't love us, and we misinterpret. 90% of our problems are just misinterpretations, and unrealistic expectations. And your brain can come back to that with a little instruction from other people, maybe, because your parents couldn't do it. So you need some knowledge, but you also have to be in a receptive state to apply that knowledge. That's why you go away as a man to raise your testosterone up. Then with a little extra knowledge, you realize, how did I contribute to that problem? And you start to feel a little bit more compassion or empathy, and your heart opens again. So it's a dance. We got to learn how to do this if we want to be these ultra high beings who can create a better world, who can have healthier bodies, who can avoid all this stupid sickness that people are experiencing. This is like a PhD class. This is what you're doing, is helping people, raise their consciousness and heal their bodies, strengthen their bodies. This takes time. And I'm happy to be a part of your Flows Festival. This is going to be really exciting for me.
It'll be fun.
It's been several years since I've been in Germany to give a talk, so this is going to be really fun.
For sure. Yeah. Yeah. And actually, John, I want to not take much more time.
I know we're way over time here.
But it's fine, because I have a couple more things I want to ask you. Okay. Now, first of all, because you mentioned what men can do. The biggest biohack for men is to listen and to then go away in conflict. But what can women do in order to help their partners to keep their testosterone high?
Okay, just to the women talking, how would you feel if you came home and somebody made you feel bad? Would you want to come home? Sometimes women say, why is my husband out drinking all the time? Well, when he comes home, what are you going to say? You're out drinking all the time. So there's a million reasons you can come up with, women, which are right about what a man does wrong. But if you're telling him he does wrong all the time, why does he want to come home to you? And how does his testosterone level start to rise again so that he can start doing the right stuff? Okay, what happened to that guy is somewhere along the line, either he messed up or you messed up and you didn't give him the rewards, or he didn't do the right stuff so you could give him the rewards. So what you have to do is not be dependent on him to feel love. Okay, so this is the catch for women, is that when they feel loved by a man, they bond. The oxytocin goes up, the estrogen goes up. When they have orgasms with a man, they bond and they go, he makes me feel this way. So suddenly you get this illusion in your brain that he has the power to make you feel good. So if he's not doing the right stuff, then he has the power to make you feel bad. So the first lesson for women to learn is that men cannot make you happy. Their job is not to make you happy. I had to learn this lesson. My job is not to make my wife happy, because then if my job's to make her happy, then every time she's unhappy, I failed. And if I failed, I go, well, I want to fail. I'm still doing the same stuff. So then I want to make her wrong for failing. So this is, I mean, I have to start with a basic higher level of intelligence and consciousness. My job is not to make her happy. Her job is to make herself happy. My job is to make me happy. That's a normal, healthy being. Then my job becomes, I know how to make her happier. She can make me happier. That's her job, is to make me happier, not to pull me out of my depression, not to, anything you do to help a man when he's depressed, irritable, whatever, not going to help. The best thing you can do is stop trying to change him and be happy yourself. So women have to learn, any attempt you have to change a man to make him better makes him worse. That's it. I mean, look at your own life experience and see if you're having problems with men. What are you doing? Now that could be a whole class on all the things people do. You may not be aware of it, but what do you do to try to change him? What do you do to try to get more from him? Anything you do to try to get more from him and change, and it's not working, it's the wrong thing. So stop it. So what women do is they express their discontent to a man. Does that work? No. They express their feelings to a man. No. Does that work? No. He's just going to get defensive. Who wants to hear somebody complain about you? So there's a journey for this, but the bottom line for women is that when you complain, unfortunately, you're talking about your feelings to some degree. That will make you feel good, but it doesn't make him feel good. It knocks him down. But you get addicted to how good you feel, like he's addicted to his internet sex. You're addicted to complaining. Your brain just goes right to what makes me feel good. Once your brain learns that expressing your emotions raises your estrogen, then once your estrogen are low, your brain goes, oh, I know how to do that. Let me first create a drama in my mind. Let me invent a drama that my life's no good. We live in paradise. Most of us who be listening to this show, we live in a paradise compared to the people who are refugees right now. Look what we got. There's no reason to be upset. You know, my deceased wife, her parents were from Auschwitz, and you know, they would look at Americans, they were like little children then, and then they grew up and they said, why are you upset about all these things? You're alive, you know. But what is your problem?
Very true.
You know, we are so spoiled, and women, and men can be spoiled, but women, in my opinion, are way more spoiled. Oh, they want everything their way. They complain about this. They talk about this. And I have no problem with trying to make the world a better place. But how do you do it? Think about the simple logic. Men need to feel successful to have testosterone. If you give them messages, they're not successful, their testosterone goes down, they lose motivation, their heart closes, they can't be better. You knock them down. So the most important thing for women is to realize what you're doing that's a mistake and stop doing it. So here's one. Often a woman will complain about something little. She says, oh, is this no big deal? Why do you keep turning off the light, leaving the lights on? You always leave the lights on. That little statement like that is more insulting than getting really mad at a guy. You don't understand men, because see, you have to realize, who are you talking to? Take into consideration how they're going to hear what you say. If I'm 3 hours late to dinner, I know my wife's pissed off and I understand it. Okay. I go, I get it. Let me bow down. I'll do some nice things for you. I'm terrible. No good. Okay. And then I let it go. Okay. Because I did something worthy of that upset. Okay. But the same guy who'll give his life for you, bust his ass to change his world so you have a better life, and he does something little and you get upset about it, it's massively insulting. So it has a bigger effect. She could be hugely upset because I'm 3 hours late, but to be upset because I left the light on, I left my shoes down, I forgot to call her, I did this little thing here, little thing there. Women freely express their discontent about little things. And one, men misinterpret it without a doubt. But two, most men are going to interpret it the wrong way because it's insulting. Because think about it. If you voted for your president and you love him and he came into your house and he left the lights on, he's so wonderful, you wouldn't care about the little things because he provides the big stuff. That's how the world used to be. My dad was not this romantic guy, but my mother loved him. They had such harmony because he was a good provider. He provided the big stuff. And so the little stuff meant nothing. The problem today is that women can now provide for themselves the big stuff. So what do I need from him? They get upset all that little stuff. Correction. What they need is something different than what they think they need. Now, a lot of women say to me, oh, don't tell me what I need. You're a man. I know what I need. Nobody knows what I need. Excuse me. I'm a doctor. I need. I'm happy. You don't know what you need. Let me just say that again. If you're unhappy, you don't know what you need. It's like in biohacking. If you're deficient in a certain protein, a vitamin, whatever, you're sick and you'll stay sick because you don't know what you need. Somebody who has an expert, somebody who's lived their life is going to say to you, you know, I've examined you and you're deficient in zinc, which let me just toss in zinc deficiency. You can't think without zinc. And every time you ejaculate, you use up 2 to 3 days supply of zinc. This is why you'll see more boys have ADD and mental problems today, is one of the reasons, is they have so much zinc depletion. So good zinc supplements can help as well. You know, it's biohacking. That's a different subject on nutrition. But
it's highly interesting. Yeah.
It's a very interesting. That's why they say, you know, the shellfish are high in zinc. They're aphrodisiacs because you need to have that zinc replenishment after you ejaculate. Okay, so whatever your vitamins are, after you have sex on Saturday night, if you ejaculate, you need to double everything. Because you got to replenish. You just lost a lot of juice in your body. If you're really, really vibrant, then you can do that, you know, but as you get older, you certainly can't. And if you want to stay young, you want to replenish. And as I mentioned, all the other stuff. Okay, so back to women. So recognize that a complaint is a negative request. Okay, so if you say, honey, you left the lights on again, what is the issue here? Why are you saying that? You're wanting him to turn out the lights. So you have to ask him, not complain. You make a request, and you start to make a request, and a request is a favor, not a demand. Okay, so if you were to say, you got to get some examples. People don't know how to do this stuff. So my wife would say, oh, you left the lights on again. How many times do I have to turn the lights on after you? Okay, so she's just venting the frustration of her whole day on me for that one thing. And just get that. Many times she'll walk through the lights on, not problem. But because women build up a frustration from the day, it will then come out on some little thing. And they don't realize that that's more insulting than if it had something to do with something big. So they don't know that they're just pulling out a machine gun and knocking this guy to pieces. So that's the first thing. We would interpret it as men as she's overreacting. The problem is that's demeaning to her. So we have to have a different, we never say that, but she is. Okay, what she's doing is she's got an accumulation of stress throughout the day, and then one thing tricks it and it comes out. But if you say you're overreacting, then you're saying, oh, you're crazy. You don't want to say that to somebody. That's demeaning. That doesn't make her feel good. You want to find ways to feel good. So one of the things she can do is if she's going to complain, recognize what is the request. Now, how to communicate the request. Now, this is all my book, Beyond Mars and Venus. These are communication skills. The basic question you ask, what can women do? Stop complaining and learn how to love. How do you learn how to love? You stop complaining. You stop trying to change him in any way. If you're unhappy, it's your fault, not his. Step 2, do something to be happy. Now, what my books explain is do things that will increase estrogen. Because usually when you're complaining, you're in your testosterone side trying to change something, trying to fix something, get out of trying to fix him. You're being a man, get over to being a woman, love something. So if you can't love him at that moment, Don't try to fix him. Fix yourself because you're out of balance. Find your love. So you need to have a lifestyle that will increase estrogen. You need new tools that will help him give you what you need so your estrogen levels will come up. But prior, when you're upset with him, he's not going to give you anything because you're upset with him. You got to bump him up to give more. He's got to pump you up so you'll give him more. But you're responsible to be happy yourself. His job is to make you happier, or at least to get out of the way for you to be happy, to find your happiness. So estrogen stimulating activities. Talk to a friend. See, talking about your emotions increases estrogen. Talk to a friend. Complain to your friend about your husband. Complain to your friend about your life with a commitment of always coming back to balancing it with appreciation for your life. You never want to just complain. Complaining is expressing feelings. That's the bottom line of it. It's a weak form of it, but it does raise estrogen, so you get addicted to it. And so complain to somebody else, but not to your husband. That's called coaches, therapists, prayer to God. My life's awful. Help me. Anytime you're in a place of help me, getting help, your estrogen will go up. So that's balance your hormones. Now you feel better without trying to change your partner. And then go to the third stage. Now give more to your partner. If you get more in your relationship, give more, but learn what men need most. What men need most is messages that you accept them just the way you are. That means no complaints. So if you do have something, but you kind of feel frustrated, well, how's he going to know? I always turning on the lights after him. So you do it like this. You're already feeling good. You're no longer trying to change him. You're upset with him. You realize that's your problem. Go solve it till your heart's open. You can remember the good things about him. Then you say, but I still want him to turn those lights out. So now that's a request. So before you make the request, you have to give more to get more. So what do you give at this point? You give him what he needs. So you're going to have to make a request. You want more from someone, you have to tell them they're already giving you so much, this would just be an add-on. This would make you happier. That's called a preference and not a demand. See, a demand is, I'm unhappy until you change, I won't be happier. No, that's a demand. Nobody responds to that. I'm happy, and if you did this, I'd be happier. So what would you do? Here's many ways to do this. I need to give a few examples so people have a practical look at it. So my wife, this is what she would say. She'd, oh, John, you know, she'd walk into the living room, the lights were on. I know so many times you turn those lights out. I'm sure you do. You have to say that even if you're not sure. I'm sure you do. But sometimes you forget. Would you would you consider, that's another good word, or would you try to remember, it just makes my life a little easier. I'd really appreciate it. He'll hear that. And then he says, I hear you. He doesn't have to say, I'm so sorry. Tell him you don't have to say sorry. You say, I'm sorry about big stuff, little stuff. Every time you say you're sorry as a man, you just knocked your testosterone down. That's not that you can't ever say, I'm sorry. There was a time in my marriage in the beginning where I told my wife, I've given 3 I'm sorry's today. I've hit my quota. Otherwise, I'll be sleepy. You guys, I'm sorry. And feeling sorry is good. It's good occasionally, okay, particularly for big stuff, not for little stuff. So she has her own, issues. So she would look at me. She'd say, you left the light on. Would you try to do it? And she's looking for me to say something like, I'm so sorry. And so what I learned to say is, I hear you. I'll think about it. And that's good enough. Make that good enough. Women have to get, if a man says, I hear you, I'll think about it, that means he's going to think about it. And you're not pushing him to make a commitment and when are you going to do it and how you're going to do it, whatever. Okay. And sometimes he might say, okay, I really try to remember. And you could nail it down a little bit more. But there's a sensitivity to how your partner is going to feel in response to what you say. And couples just lose that. We just say what we feel. You can't just say what you feel. You can come to me for therapy and say what you feel, and I'll tell you, okay, what else do you feel? And what else do you feel? And then we'll get down to the deep issues that your issues are very little about him. It's all about you. And that's really what life's about. It's about us. And when we're feeling good, then it can be about others. Otherwise, we're just looking to others to take. We're giving to take. We're giving to take, as opposed to giving freely. And that's what we want to achieve as biohackers. That's going to produce all the best hormones in our body. It's going to lower stress in our body. Imagine coming home if you're a man. Women, just imagine he's going to come home to a woman that appreciates him and thinks he's wonderful and nothing he's done wrong. I haven't done anything wrong, and I don't have to do anything more for at least 30 minutes. That's why my book, Men Are From Mars, I talk about that, about men's cave time. Just don't put any requests on your partner in the first 30 minutes when he comes home. Just go to him, get a hug, and ignore him for 30 minutes. Let him do his own thing. Then, hey, honey, I'd love to spend some, would you help me? That's a phrase many women can't even say these days is, hey, when you have time and you're done watching that show or playing that video game or when you're finished meditating, would you help me? And then stop. Let him then come to you and say, oh, how can I help you? When he's ready, he will do it. You just have to toss that little pin in there. And I know some women go, oh, you don't know my husband. I know your husband. I know men. I know what happens to men when they have wives who feel like he's never going to help me. That's mistrust. That's what men need, is to feel trusted. He'll do his best, and his best is good enough. Acceptance is his best is good enough. And then sometimes his best is better than enough, and that's called appreciation. When you appreciate somebody, their testosterone goes up. I know some women go, what about me? Yeah, what about you? You need to be heard. You need romance. You need affection. You need touching. You need understanding. You need freedom. You need a lot of stuff. And you need the stuff men need, but not as much. He's the one who needs to feel appreciated more. And don't expect men to be these great appreciators. That's not our strength. That's your strength as a woman. You're a cheerleader. You have this heart that can appreciate little things. Men can't do that nearly as well as women. That's your job, is to appreciate when he does right. By saying things like this, you can experiment. Today, he's talking to say, oh, that's a good idea. Try saying that 3 times in a conversation. You'll watch his posture will change. He'll stand taller. Or say, oh, you're right. Another friend, oh, that's amazing. I didn't think of that. These little things in a female hormonal point of view just boosts the man's testosterone, makes him feel like he has something to offer you. That's what you have to get. His self-esteem, his feeling of greatness and goodness and love and openness is when he feels he has something significant, has meaning to his life. And the young man, we want to achieve something, we want to be good at something. And that because we anticipate when we're good at something, then we'll be able to have someone love us for it. We'll be able to contribute. We'll be able to give that. And I'm not saying everybody's destined to have, their love relationship, but if it's in your heart, that's what you're destined for. If it's something you long for and want, you have it in you to create that, but you have to find this personal responsibility for creating inside yourself happiness and fulfillment so that you can now share that with somebody rather than look to them for that. I look to my wife for 34 years to take me to a place I can never go alone. That's called great sex. That's called intimacy. That's called romance. That's called love. And for women, it's often called intimacy and love. For men, it's called great sex. That's just a difference there. But great sex is of certainly love, if infused with love and energy and fulfillment. And then you have no desire. I mean, the whole thing about guys is that until you get to that place, you're always looking, where am I going to get it? Where am I going to look at? Women are always looking, oh, he's getting this. What kind of man is he? Whatever. We have to find it within ourselves and then learn how to give that to somebody else. And that's freedom. And I was touching that briefly because I know a lot of polyamorous people are listening, because that's a very sort of new,
very new age thing. Very true.
It's freedom. Okay, we're all about freedom. We're not following anybody else's rules. We're taking intelligence and we're running our lives. That's a great state to be in. So I'm just selling the idea, and this is my little philosophy that kept me turned on to my wife. My wife, if she wasn't in the mood for sex, she had to dress in another room. I would get so turned on. This guy goes up and doesn't go down every day. If she shows anything, boom, oh, we're going to do, this is fully active, 68 years old. And my philosophy, which has worked well for me, is if you've got $1 million, we can say $1 billion now, whatever. Seems $1 million is not that much for some people. Okay, we'll say $1 million, and you give $1 to 1 million people. How big of an impact have you made? Not much. But take that $1 million and give it to one person. How big of an impact do you make? Multi-orgasmic woman. Give all your juice to her and you'll get it all back. And if you're not getting it back, usually it's communication problems outside the relationship, one. But two, it's technology, it's techniques in the bedroom. You have to have sex education, and there's so much good sex education out there. And for women, it's all about learning to guide a man in sex, direct him in sex, ask what you want. There's ways to do that. Non-verbally is the best, by making noises when he hits the right spot and being quiet when he goes somewhere else. And if he's not in the right place, move his hand. You control what you want. You're basically having ways to communicate what you need. Oh, slow, slow, slow. And he's fast, slow, slow. Push him away. Go slow. You know, even but be gentle. Be aware of what he can hear and direct him silently or with sounds or with noises. And stop and have conversations. Be in your head as well as your heart, as well as down here. Directing him. Going slow is a big thing. Surrendering yourself, noticing how you feel, opening up more, going in waves yourself. Because what happens is women, when they get to that place where a man would ejaculate, what women get to is a place where I can make myself come. Okay, I can do it now. That's where they go, I got to do it, and they withdraw back into themselves and push for that orgasm that depletes their energy. They can't just keep going on and on and on. And not only does it keep her from going on and on and on until she's out of her mind. It's the little death the French talk about. I'm going to die, I'm going to die, I'm going to die, that whole thing. Because she loses her ability to think. It's just gone. That's the multi-orgasmic state. At that time, you will be in full control because she is fully receiving you. So the idea is she needs to receive, he needs to be in control. So at that point where she starts to concentrate, I can do it. Mm-hmm. As soon as she feels I can do it, then she needs to relax. Now, right at that point, a man's going to feel like an ejaculate. Suddenly his energy is flowing along. Now he's going to ejaculate. So if you get any signal that soon you're going to ejaculate, usually it means she's in the place where she's trying to grab it and go for it. So what you have to do is control. You're controlling her in the sex action where you're giving her what she needs. Not like you're giving what you want. You're giving her what she needs. So at that point, that's where you need to relax. That means you just slow down and stop wherever you are. Take some breaths, talk about, I love you, you're beautiful, lots of compliments at that time. But don't let her take you further than you can go because she's now going away from you. You need to be with her, and at the point of ejaculation means your energy is no longer going into her. That's because she's not receiving you, or you're wanting to get greedy, okay? You're wanting to take. So it's the whole dance of once you learn how to give up your attachment to having this ejaculation, then what you have to learn is how not to be greedy. You have to be patient. Love is patient. You have to get close to it and back off. That's called, edging. But if you have blue balls, you edge too close. So the idea is edge, and you're once a week orgasm. And the rest of the time, just edge, and don't orgasm. And eventually those edgings will actually become orgasms. But you got to build up the semen for several months of not ejaculating. That's sort of the advanced stage of it.
Wow. Okay. This is super interesting. Thanks, John. I have actually one more little topic I wanted to ask you about because I could listen to you for hours, which is also something you mentioned before to me. And it's about lithium orotate.
Okay, great.
Because you've mentioned that before. And as a biohacker, I'm highly interested. I actually got it. I have a bottle right here and started using it. And I checked my blood before and after. And actually my lithium levels are optimal now, which they weren't before. But I wanted to hear from you, why lithium? How does it work for people who want to use it? And is it for everyone? And also why orotate?
Okay, Dr. Nieper of Germany discovered that if you bind a mineral to a delivery system, it's more effective. And orotic acid, which is a substance that's highly found in mother's milk, is a good delivery system to bring the lithium into the brain. Now, when psychiatrists give lithium for bipolar, what they're doing there is they're helping to regulate dopamine production in the brain. I'll get to what it does. But first of all, why orotate? Is if you use lithium carbonate in order to get the benefit of not having these super high spikes of dopamine. Super high spikes of dopamine, it could be, it's called manic. I can do this, I can do this, I can do this, and it's unrealistic. You're way too high, you're way too happy or whatever. And then you crash way too low. Okay, so you go from one extreme to the other. I personally think we're all living now in a bipolar society. I just did some stock investments recently. I realized, oh my God, this is just playing with bipolar. And going up and watching it. Oh my God, it's just up and down, not for me. So, but the intensity always closes the receptor sites, and then you crave intensity again, it closes the receptor sites. lithium, in my experience of working with it for 20 years with people, is that it frees them from the addiction to going back to intensity. But that what happens is you have to use willpower. You have intensity. You have to say, now I need to balance it with relaxation. Intensity has to be balanced with relaxation. Here's an example for men knowing that you're addicted to high stimulation is your girlfriend's talking and you're like in a hurry. How long is this going to take? What's going to go on? You can't bear it and you're thinking about other stuff. That's because you can't be present in the moment. And you can't because those receptor sites need more intensity. They need her to get to the point. Let's do something. Let's accomplish something. What's the danger? What's the problem? You know, women often like to tell a long story and you're kind of going, so what happened? So what happened? You can't get to it. We're in such a hurry. Okay. So that's addiction to high stimulation for pleasure. Low stimulation no longer has a pleasurable effect on you. We want to get to the point where we can have some high, some low, and we're ecstatic. Okay. Ecstasy is a little different from the intensity. Okay, I'll describe ecstasy. I'm feeling it now. So there's this identity of who we are. It's a field around us of who we are. And then there's another field of who we are that's infinite, goes out. And you're everywhere and also right here at the same time. That's ecstasy. You know, that's timelessness. It's unlimited energy. It's a joyfulness in this body. But there's this spaciousness that's very calm and comforting. You know, it's like a pillow. It's soft. It's a bit of what you feel when you're turned on and you put your head on a woman's soft breast or you hold her bottom. You know, the sexual, this is just non-sexual softness. You know, that's ecstasy. That's flow state, is you're moving and something's not moving. Okay.
That's a flow state.
You know,
totally.
And this happens. So back to lithium. Okay. So lithium is the key factor for flow. Okay. What I just described there is a balance of dopamine production and serotonin. Dopamine's exciting. Serotonin is calming. Okay, so you have, you know, when I used to teach meditation at Maharishi, we called it restful alertness. Okay, it'd be more like restful intensity. But you've got this focus, you've got this presence, you've got this peacefulness that goes together. This is the yang energy is the dopamine. The yin energy is the serotonin. Now, when you have the right balance for you, and not taking chemicals to do it here, but you're giving chemicals to support your consciousness in doing it. It needs the raw materials to do it. You got to have the consciousness, your intention, your, you know, being responsible, you know, being loving, all these kind of things help us to stimulate these hormones. But if we don't have the right nutrients, then our body can't recover. So you had high intensity, they get low, the closing up of receptor sites. Now the body needs lithium in order to open those receptor sites up very quickly. You got to bounce back. You know, if your pupils constrict, they got to open back up again. You see, you got to have blood flow for that, have a sugar for that. You got to have all kinds of nutrients for that to happen. And the one that's missing the most is lithium, because lithium is depleted through intensity. Whenever you have intensity, you're using up your lithium because your brain is trying to balance you at that time. And that's one of the functions of lithium, is to find that balance. Lithium, just on a side for biohackers, is one of the only things that's been proven to regenerate and grow new white cells in the brain and gray cells. Okay. And nobody can do that. And lithium does that. They put it in a tube and they see it regenerates them. So you get more brain cells by taking a very low dose of lithium every day. So is it for everybody? No. If you're a biohacker and you want a brain that grows instead of shrinks, if you're looking forward to living long life and vitality, then it's for you. So one thing, it regenerates cells. Another one is that it protects, it's a neuroprotector from mercury toxicity. So if you have mercury coming in, you're more vulnerable to it, okay, because you don't have lithium function. Now, you know, we're talking about maybe even dopamine function is what we're talking about, and lithium is a key player in that. What it does is it balances the production of dopamine and serotonin in the brain. Now, other things are required as well. You need zinc in order, there has to be zinc in there for it to do its job. You need calcium needs to get into the neuron. The neurons are having sex all the time. It's like 1,000 a second. You know, they're doing like this. Calcium goes in, goes out, goes in, goes out. If calcium goes in and doesn't come out, then what you get is a bipolar episode. Your body's not excreting calcium. Calcium stimulates dopamine. When the calcium goes in, dopamine gets produced. Calcium goes out. If there is magnesium in the neuron, then serotonin gets produced. So magnesium's the female. He has to go in, stimulate some excitement. He has to pull out, and then magnesium calms you. Then calcium goes in. So you need a good amount of calcium and magnesium. Generally, we get plenty of calcium in life. It's really the magnesium deficiency, which every biohacker knows. We need more magnesium, take baths in magnesium, expose ourselves to magnesium creams. These are all great things. Take magnesium. Magnesium orotate goes into the brain as more efficiently. Magnesium threonate also has been proven to get into the brain as well. These are really good supplements to take. But the biology is that dopamine regulates this dopamine and serotonin production, but it requires magnesium and calcium to work. It also requires zinc as a neuroprotector for the brains. Every brain cell requires zinc, and potassium is required for hydration of the neurons and so forth. A few other minerals are required, but the key thing there is the lithium. Why? Because intensity tends to use up the lithium very quickly. We don't get a lot of lithium in our diet, probably less than ever before now, because maybe it's even there, but when we eat sugar products or when we have intensity, we tend to lose the lithium right away. So they find that lithium goes out of the body if you have too much intensity. So you want to replenish with lithium. You don't need very much.
So what happens when you have no lithium? Like you get into a sort of bipolar episode that you're too stressed out?
Anybody who's depressed has no lithium, and anybody who's having extreme, if you're stressed, you're using up lithium. And if you're having symptoms of stress, which would be anxiety, would be depression, would be irritability, which would be low libido, which would be inability to have orgasm, all of that would be because you're not having proper dopamine regulation. I'll just toss in a thought here. I wrote a whole book on this one called Staying Focused in a Hyper World.
I have it right here, yeah.
It's a good book. It's
signed by you, actually.
Pardon?
I had it signed by you years ago.
Well done. Okay. So, anyway, so so lithium is there. We tend to lose it. It's very popular. The food that has it most is beets. You see borscht in the cold climates is like Russia and everything. There's it helps with depression. That's why people are drawn to it. Okay, because the lithium is in the beets. Ironically, when you look at sort of the wisdom of the universe, beets is a source of sugar. And so here's this very sweet root vegetable, which also has the most lithium in it. So beets is a good thing to eat, but I found that it's not enough to...
And it also has a lot of nitric oxide, which is also flushes out the stress hormones.
I have a beet product as well that gives blood flow for men who can't get blood flow down south. Take those good beet extract products. Okay, nitric oxide. So you're getting this dopamine balancing of dopamine and serotonin. Also, you need to have, just to know what you basically need for healthy dopamine function, is you need your calcium and your magnesium, your potassium and your zinc. Then you need sunshine. Okay, sunshine is really essential. Your vitamin D is what allows the neurons to absorb the calcium to stimulate dopamine. That's why you get sunshine. You just feel like awake. You have more dopamine gets produced when sunshine is there, or vitamin D is being produced in the body. So vitamin D has to go in. The problem is that we can get it when we're addicted to dopamine. Usually what we need is K2, which helps to pull the dopamine back out and let the magnesium have its work. So K2 is really good for making more serotonin function. Calcium's good for, sunshine is good for the dopamine, or vitamin D. So vitamin D, K2, your basic alkaline minerals, which is lithium, calcium, magnesium, zinc, and potassium. These are all together a really good brew. In America, I have a product that I formulated. I sell a lot of products at my store, but one is called Super Minerals for Men, Super Minerals for Women, with a little bit of balance. So you get most of those ingredients to go along with a good diet and good lifestyle. What I see biohacking is most of it is not drugs, okay? When you're not, a drug changes you. You don't have to change your behavior. You don't have to change your thinking. The drug does it. That's not the best, in my opinion. What you want is something that provides your body with what it requires and needs to be in the optimal flow state. But you have to change your thinking. You have to change your behavior. You can't just take something and you can occasionally take mushrooms and go into flow state. But you won't be grounded. You're not going to be in this world. There's something where you're disconnected. And I highly recommend it for people to experience what flow is. It's just amazing to know what the potentials are of the mind, but it's not grounded, and it's just an awakening. And the problem with any high intense experience is that it can create a desensitizing in the brain to normal experience. So then you become dependent on those things, and that's an addiction. So an addiction isn't just because something's bad for your liver. An addiction is something that means every time you do it, you're lowering your ability to experience normal happiness and fulfillment in your life. So when you see somebody's addicted to the painkillers now in America, the huge problem, evidently, this big problem of the painkillers. The real problem there is that when they're taking their painkiller, it feels good, and then they have to take more and more until finally taking high doses of it only lets them feel normal. Because if they're not taking it, then they're left to everything else is shit. As my life is horrible, there's boring and flat and so forth. So when you're bored in life, that means basically to normal experiences. I mean, if you're sitting in a room doing nothing, you'll be bored. But if you have a life and you're bored with your life, those receptor sites aren't coming back up. And that's where lithium is so helpful in my experience of helping people with the right lifestyle. The receptor sites will bounce right back up. And so what
dosage do you recommend?
Okay, so that varies. You can do, the key thing is to remember high doses of lithium is toxic. High doses of salt is toxic. High doses of magnesium is toxic. And so there's a big fear that people have around taking lithium because psychiatrists use lithium carbonate for bipolar, and it works, but it has side effects. And the side effects is because you're taking 100 to 500 times what I recommend. Okay, you're taking a massive dose of what most doctors recommend who understand lithium orotate. So you want to get just your normal, a normal dose of it, which would be like 4.5 milligrams, as other researchers have determined. I think that works for everybody. Some people are now saying just 1 milligram a day will keep your brain healthier. But it needs to be orotic acid, bonded to orotic acid. There's maybe something else it can bond to as well. But I've just seen lithium orotate work so well for people. So 4.5 milligrams is generally, if you buy it in the store or online, everything is about 4.5 milligrams of elemental lithium bonded to orotic acid. Now that's a basic dose. You take that, and if you don't notice something after a couple of days, it works fast. I mean, it's not a drug. It's just your body needs it. It's like, oh, give me that and I can work better. It stops, the first sign of it is you'll notice it stops repetitive thinking. Okay, so let's say my wife irritated me, and then I'm going to walk through the whole day thinking about how irritated and annoyed I am with her. That's a lithium deficiency. Okay, and also I have to go, let it go. You have to say, let it go. But you can say, hey, let it go, it's no big deal. But you keep making it a big deal. It's because you don't have enough lithium. Okay, so that's a key. It's the nutrient you need to let it go, And so that's 4.5. That doesn't work. You double it. You can go up to, what I've seen people, generally speaking, is some kids who have like concussions and brain problems and whatever, or more extreme symptoms, take like about 25 milligrams of lithium orotate. I've had people do that. They get tested and there's no toxicity in their blood at all. It's perfectly fine. Now, when you get above 25, you're getting into a realm of you need to watch how much you're taking, and the early signs of taking too much, because it can have side effects on your thyroid. Okay, so all that lithium, too much of it, has an interaction with iodine, and so anyway, it messes with your thyroid. So a lot of people take lithium carbonate, which is 500 times the dose I'm talking about. Remember that, it's 500 times the dose. Then they start to swell up and their body gains weight and so forth. But an early symptom of too much is dryness in the mouth. If you're feeling a dryness in your tongue and so forth, you're taking too much lithium. Generally, that's the symptom of it. Just cut back and realize you need to be doing some other biohacks. I mean, it's not one thing that does everything. It's just, to me, the cheapest and the most potent, powerful thing anybody can do for well-being and happiness in their life, energy and motivation, because that's all about dopamine and serotonin regulation.
Wow. John, I think we hit the 2-hour mark.
Oh, we already did. Okay, well, this was really fun. And I so much enjoyed interviewing with you because you went to one of my talks and heard some really cool points.
Yeah, no, you're a big inspiration, and thanks for all your work. And to me personally, you're really someone I look up to and try to emulate in lots of ways. And
one other point, because you're single, and have you read my book, Mars, Venus on a Date?
No, not yet.
As a book, Mars, Venus on a Date. And like one of the takeaways in that book is when you're on a date, don't talk too much, ask more questions. You're just what they do. Women often want to ask questions to feel safe. But you make her feel safe by listening, getting her to open up a little bit and making that safe by not correcting her, by not giving advice to her, by thinking about it. It's amazing how much a woman will start to bond with you when she doesn't know what's going on inside of you. But the way she learns what's going on inside of you is by the best way to know is how you react to when she expresses herself. And what a woman can learn to do on those dates to bond and see if the right person's right is be authentic and express your thoughts about things, express yourself freely, and he will have a point of view. Don't try to change his point of view, but give him the message that, oh, yeah, that's an interesting idea too. Well, that makes sense as well. And he completely contradicts you. Maybe even says something that you're offended by, whatever. Well, I wouldn't have thought of that. Don't argue. Argue is trying to change somebody's point of view. You have no investment in changing someone. At the same time, you fearlessly open yourself up and express what you think. Now, start out by giving your opinions and your thoughts about things, and don't go so much to the feelings until you feel safer that your thoughts are acceptable. So one example would be of expressing would be when I was a younger guy, I was in a group of friends. I went to impress them. And they said, oh, did you see that movie? I went, yeah. Well, what'd you think? I was like, oh, what if they didn't like the movie? What if they did like the movie? You just need to, oh, I thought this and this and this. What'd you think? And then they can say something different and let that be okay. Have the courage to have your point of view without any attachment or dependence on them agreeing with you. It's a very attractive quality in a woman. And remember, it's differences that create attraction, differences that can harmonize. Trying to fit into somebody else is not the answer, particularly for women. Men are attracted to that difference, and women are attracted to men who respond that makes them feel safe. Safety is the whole key for women, and it's emotional safety is now the most important thing. And emotional safety is what generates intimacy, which generates the higher levels of estrogen that allow women to be orgasmic. And that's when she can reveal what's inside of her. And when she can reveal to you things about her that she didn't even know, that will occur if you create space, patience, asking questions, showing interest. That's what's commonly meant by the phrase of being present. Women will say, I need you to be present. Men go, okay, what is that? That means patience and interest and caring. And if you just don't have that interest, you're addicted to too high of a stimulation. That's where you have to work on cutting back on the things that stimulate too high, giving yourself more recovery time.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. No, I'll definitely take that into my next stage.
eye contact, moving the head, whatever. And you want to drive a woman crazy. If she's all hot and heavy to have sex, just do foreplay and say, oh, I like to go slow.
Thank you, John, for this very entertaining and informative session.
Thank you so much.
And by the way, also to all the listeners, if you listening right now, then please take a screenshot and share with us on Instagram or on Facebook I know yours is at John Gray Mars Venus. Somehow they'll find it that way.
Okay.
And at Flowgrade.
My website that people get is marsvenus.com. And I've got a lot of good videos on there for people.
Yeah, too. I was just about to say the blog is fantastic to all the listeners. It's newly done, beautifully done with your daughter, Lauren. And she and you guys, you share a lot of, videos with answers to important questions. And I've watched already some of them, very informative, very well done. And at the same time, you can read it and get the key points below in all the articles. And you find your books there, as well as you have an academy there as well. And people can get a lot of information. And I can only recommend to get at least one, if not all, of John's books. and read them. And you're a life changer, a game changer.
That's one. If you're single, Mars, Venus on a date, and then beyond Mars and Venus, because today we men have become more emotional, women have become more independent, and that can create a problem if we don't know how to deal with that problem and make a better solution to bring us closer together. And also, I just want to mention, I forgot to tell you, is we also have a coaching program. People want to learn how to be Mars Venus coaches. That's marsvenuscoaching.com.
Oh, okay, great. Yeah. We link to all of that actually in the show notes. So the website for the show notes will be flowgrade.de/marsvenus. So I'll just do that. And then we'll have all the links to your website, to your academy, to the books there, along with the episode and all the show notes. But I also say that actually in the introduction in the beginning, as well as in the outro.
Oh, okay.
But at this point, John, that was really my head. I was in a flow state right now. I was in ecstasy at some point.
I know. Well, you're such an open guy. I mean, you're brilliant. Thank you. I mean, you're whatever.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And to all the listeners, until the next episode, thank you so much for listening. And I'm sure you'll hear a lot. And you'll see him in Germany. We make that happen. So stay Flowgrade, go for Flow. Vielen Dank fürs Zuschauen. Wenn du jetzt noch mehr Lust hast auf tolle Inhalte, Interviews und weitere Biohacks aus der Flowgrade-Welt, dann abonniere diesen Kanal. Go for Flow.